If you like American history, please subscribe to our channel and ring that bell so you can be notified when we put up a new video. During the 1920s, black Pullman porters sought better wages and working conditions on traveling sleeper train cars. One of America's earliest civil rights leaders, A. Philip Randolph, was asked to help. To that end, he founded the first African-American labor union in the United States, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, in 1925. Almost 40 years later, Randolph became the organizing force behind the most famous civil rights march in American history. Some called him the true father of the civil rights movement in the United States. Randolph's incredible story is next on Mark in History. This is the historical marker for Asa Philip Randolph, who was an early civil rights leader. His marker is located here in Crescent City, Florida, in front of the church where his father was minister. Over his career, Randolph worked with presidents and civil rights leaders to push for desegregation and civil rights with his method of nonviolent confrontation. Now let's learn more about his incredible story behind the marker. After the Civil War, one job available for recently freed slaves was working on trains. In an era of significant racial prejudice, being a Pullman porter was one of the best jobs available for African American men. Pullman's luxury cars were famous for the impeccable service and royal treatment provided by the staff. Company founder George Pullman hired African American freemen who were previously slaves in the South as porters for his luxury cars. These porters were trained to be valets and waiters and were paid relatively well and got to travel all over the U.S., which gained them a position of respect in the black community. Pullman porters have been widely credited with contributing to the development of the black middle class in America. By World War I, 12,000 porters were employed by the Pullman Company. George Pullman became the biggest single employer of African Americans in post-Civil War America. Working for the Pullman Company was, however, less glamorous than the image the company promoted. Black porters depended on tips for much of their income, which meant on the generosity of white passengers who often called them all the same, George, the first name of Mr. Pullman. Pullman demanded 400 working hours a month or 11,000 miles, sometimes as much as 20 hours at a stretch to earn a basic wage. On August 25, 1925, 500 porters met in Harlem to organize a new labor union. They approached the young and well-spoken publicist and newspaper editor of The Messenger, A. Philip Randolph, and asked him to help. Randolph agreed. Besides his standing as a labor organizer and civil rights activist, Randolph was not a Pullman Company employee, meaning the company could not fire him or buy him off. That year, Randolph organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first successful African American labor union. Their demands included a living wage instead of tipping, a 240-hour work month, and 4 to 6 hours of rest each night. During the following years, Randolph became the most widely known spokesperson for black working-class interest in the country, and three U.S. presidents got to learn firsthand about Randolph's persuasive tactics to create social change. In January 1941, Randolph lobbied President Franklin Roosevelt to issue an executive order abolishing discrimination in national defense jobs and ending Jim Crow laws in the military. Roosevelt was not persuaded, so Randolph came up with a novel idea. He organized the formation of the March on Washington movement, calling for 10,000 blacks to hold a rally on July 1st at the Lincoln Memorial. Randolph's proposal was a radical shift away from the strategies of leading civil rights groups at the time. By early summer, Randolph announced the number of expected participants had risen to 100,000. You can imagine that Roosevelt was desperate to avoid the march.
I called for a conference with the president. He said, Phil Randolph, we can't have 100,000 Negroes marching on Washington. If anything such as that were to occur, you wouldn't be able to manage them. We might have bloodshed and death. He said, now let us get on to business here and find out what can be done.
With only 7 days to spare, Randolph called off the march. In exchange, Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, prohibiting discrimination of employment in defense industries and establishing a Fair Employment Practices Committee. 2 million blacks eventually found employment in wartime defense work.
Negroes want the same things that white citizens possess.
7 years later, Randolph used the March on Washington movement to pressure another president, Harry Truman, to end Jim Crow laws in the military and to integrate the armed forces. Threatened with widespread racial tensions and needing the black vote in his 1948 re-election campaign, President Harry Truman signed Executive Order 9981 on July 26, 1948, banning racial segregation in the armed forces. In the 1960s, it was President Kennedy's turn to experience A. Philip Randolph. Randolph finally realized his vision for a march on Washington for jobs and freedom on August 28, 1963, which attracted between 200,000 and 300,000 people to the nation's capital. Although Kennedy had been pushing Congress for a new Civil Rights Act since early 1963, he initially did not support the event because of concern about the potential impact of the march on his pending civil rights legislation.
We believe that it's
the rally is often remembered as the high point of the civil rights movement.
All over the world. Let the nation and the world know the meaning of our numbers. We are not a pressure group. We are not a mob. We are the advance guard of a massive moral revolution for jobs and freedom.
Later, Randolph introduces the moral leader of the march, Dr. Martin Luther King.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
After the successful conclusion of the march, President Kennedy invited civil rights leaders to the White House, where they discussed the need for bipartisan support of civil rights legislation. After the Kennedy assassination on November 22, 1963, the bill was left in the hands of Lyndon B. Johnson. On July 2nd, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 became law. The Civil Rights Act was a crucial step in achieving the civil rights movement's initial goal of full legal equality. 3 months later, on September 14, 1964, A. Philip Randolph was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Lyndon Johnson. This award is the highest civilian honor given by the U.S. executive branch. Due to his failing health, Randolph resigned his presidency of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and retired from public life in 1968. Asa Philip Randolph died in his Manhattan apartment on May 16, 1979, at age 90. Today, you can visit the National A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum in Chicago, Illinois, to celebrate his legacy. Many will say that A. Philip Randolph was the true father of the civil rights movement in the United States. He felt that civil disobedience, nonviolent protest, and mass demonstrations were the very best way to mobilize public pressure and create the social change that everyone deserves. If history can be taught with stories, it can never be forgotten. Please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to stay informed on the latest videos. And don't forget to leave your comments below and tell us what you like about this video.